this is a case that genuinely shocked the entire country. I mean, think about it. How could somebody murder their best friend? And I don't mean like, oh, were they friends? Were they not? Did they know each other for a long time? Like, no, I'm talking 20 years, calling each other besties, driving long distances to like hang out with each other, always calling, chit-chatting, like total best friends. Okay, that level. Think about your closest friend right now. Okay, now imagine that they get to some kind of point where they've decided that they're going to kill you and then take your child and try to pass it off as their own. Heidi and Magen met at a church group when they were very early age. Some reports say around 11 years old. Heidi already kind of had friends in this. She went to a different school than Magen, but when she met Magen, she really liked her and kind of like drew her into the group. Some of the other girls would later go on to say like they didn't get it, like they didn't understand like, yo, why is Magen here again? But Heidi really liked her and she wasn't problematic, but she was always just kind of like there. One thing that's really interesting about this case is that the police came to kind of a different motive, but when you look at all the reports that come from like friends and family and testimonies, people just have weird stories about Magen over the years. So I'm going to give you both. I'm going to give you my take on it, what the police said, and then also what friends and family said. But one of the early things that they said was Magen was kind of a try-hard and she really wanted to fit in. Like you know people like that. You can just tell when somebody wants to just fit in to a group really hard and they just do certain things and it's kind of like, ooh, what is that, you know? So Magen ends up meeting Heidi at this church group and she just thinks the world of her. She thinks she's like so cool. And so when they're together, she's like, oh my God, like this person's awesome. But then when Magen and Heidi get into group settings, Magen gets a little jealous of Heidi because everybody loves her. She liked to dance. She's confident. She just had like a lot of spirit. And so when it's just them together, Megan's like, oh my God, oh wow. But then when they're in a group setting, she just realizes how bright Heidi shines. And I think this, one, makes her cling on to her a little bit more. But then two, makes her extremely jealous. But the jealousy gets contained because they're very quickly labeled as best friends. So Magen probably thinks like, oh, okay, yeah, everyone likes you and it makes me feel bad about myself, but you're my best friend. So now you're an extension of me. So the jealousy is kind of quelled, but people still felt it and would talk about it later. Something was weird about Magen and Heidi. And it wasn't Heidi. You know those times when you have like a symptom and you're like, man, I should really go to the doctor. And then it goes away. And then it comes back and you're like, man, I should really go to the doctor. And then it goes away and then it comes back. These are the times that you could be using ZocDoc. It's all about the time, you know? I've always hated making doctor's appointments. I hate looking for somebody through my provider. I hate reading reviews for doctors. I hate calling up there. I just hate it. I hate all of it, okay? And I feel like a lot of you get me, probably do too. ZocDoc makes it so easy. Everything that you need is all right within the app. Looking for doctors that are in network, trying to figure out how much it's going to cost out of pocket, you know, looking at all the reviews. It's all right there. And I cannot tell you guys how easy it is to score 48 hours, 72-hour appointments, sometimes, depending on the city you live in, even same day. So whether you're overdue for a checkup, got some kind of weird symptom that's bugging you, or, you know, you just need to go do your annuals, ZocDoc will make it so easy. And on top of that, it's free. And I mean, because it's free, there's almost no reason why you should use my code, but you should. It's ZocDoc.com/Sinister. That will take you straight to a website to download the app and you can get your appointment booked in minutes. So just go to ZocDoc.com/Sinister and you can find a top-rated doctor today. Over the next couple of years, Magen played the role of a good friend. All she had to do was just hang out with her a little bit, pick up the phone, be supportive, say, hey girl, like a couple of Facebook posts, and just kind of like lay low. And that's how it was. I mean, truly, even though people noticed a lot of weird behaviors coming from Magen towards Heidi, for the most part, she seemed fairly normal and was able to keep her cool for like 10 years, right? So much so that Heidi just, thought she was the greatest. And when she had her first child with her husband in 2014, it was a boy named Silas, Magen was actually in the delivery room, which is like, this is serious. Like my best friend of 20 years, I don't want to be in the delivery room. I don't want to see all that. I don't want to talk to you, Like they were close. You guys gotta let me know in the comments if I'm weird for this one. Like, would you want your best friend in the delivery room with you? Like, is this a sweet moment, or are you like, okay, I don't have the right intimacy levels for this? Now, we talked a little bit about their early life, but something else about Heidi, with this whole case, when Heidi went missing, there was so much press that really like framed Heidi as this all-American mom that's gone missing. Like almost the way they like framed Sherry Papini, like very just all-American Christian mom goes missing. What could happen? Like that's just the way the media hypes it up sometimes. Heidi and Shane were cool, okay? When I was diving into this, one thing that I really liked about Heidi and Shane is that they seemed like somebody that like you might work at a restaurant that's just always a really good time. Like they like to drink, but they're not gonna overdo it. They might have a few party favors here and there. Like they'll stay out late till like 2 a.m., but then like they're going home, Like they're not the all-American picture perfect Christian family that the media tried to spin it up as, but they are cool. Like they're just like chill people, okay? I just really want to point that out because what they really are is actually like even better than the media tried to portray it to make it like a bigger story. Like they were like that fun, edgy couple that was gonna make it. And Shane's a good guy, provides for the family, takes care of stuff. Like everything is just so good with them. So much so that they decide that they're going to have another child when Heidi gets pregnant again in 2019. And like, this is great, totally fine, right? Well, for some reason, when Heidi told Magen, she got pretty upset. Like I said, there's different perceptions of what happened between the close friends and family of Heidi and also the police. But close friends and family said that Magen just had, she wasn't happy for Heidi this time. The suspicion was that maybe Magen thought like, oh, I've already lost a lot of your attention once you've had this baby. What's going to happen when you have two? But her response was just not pleasant. So that dies down a bit until just a few weeks later. It's like 2 weeks maybe. Magen goes back to Heidi and she's like, hey, guess what? I'm also pregnant. And Heidi gives the appropriate response and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Congratulations. Heidi doesn't question it because Magen has this kind of on again, off again boyfriend named Christopher Green. And so if Megan's pregnant, it's Chris's baby, right? Heidi's like, this is amazing. Like, we're in our 30s. I'm about to have a baby the same time as my best friend. Heidi's done this before. She's already had her first child, Silas. And so this is a really big moment for two people that have known each other for 20 years. It's a huge bonding moment. Like, this is something that, okay, do I want my best friend in the delivery room? No. But like, I'll go through pregnancy together with you. That sounds so fun. Like, this is something that girls are like, about, and it's happening. It's happening. And it's just a really, really happy time. Or so Heidi thinks. Because on the other end, things are not going so well with Magen. On one hand, she told Chris that she was pregnant. And his response was much like Megan's when Heidi said she was pregnant. He was like, oh, really? They had been broken up for a while and they were still living together, but in opposite wings of the house. So they barely saw each other. Chris was not particularly enthralled about the news, but he did plan to stay with Magen and have the baby. Magen was also providing for herself, as many of us are, but things got a little rocky to the point that she stole $5,000 allegedly from a cash register, and she got caught by her employer. Now, he actually went to press charges. There was a whole court case and everything, but they could not prove without a reasonable doubt that she had actually stolen the money. So Chris came, bailed her out for $1,000. It went to trial and it got dismissed. But what I just find interesting about this is like, it says a lot about Megan's character, right? She has the capacity to steal. She has a capacity to steal from her employer. And it's not just $100. It's not $500. She said, give me the money. I'm taking all 5 G's. I don't even know how they would have put $5,000 in the register, but supposedly they did. And she took it and she went to court. If anything, though, this action of stealing $5,000 from the register, because it happened the same year as the murder, it kind of just signals to me that Megan is starting to do really desperate things for what she perceives to be her survival. You don't need $5,000 for survival. That's like $100 or $500. Now, during this time, Miss Megan is also going to all of Heidi's doctor appointments with her for the baby. I just got to do another community check. If you can, if you already left a comment, edit it, or if you haven't yet, please answer both the questions. How many doctor's appointments do you feel like it's fairly normal for your best friend to come with you on through pregnancy? Like, let's just say you have 15 doctor's appointments through your entire pregnancy. Like, how many would you want like your like best friend to actually come with you on? I would say maybe a couple, maybe like, 2 or 3. Megan was up at almost every appointment. And it wasn't just like, Heidi, let me drive you so you can kick your feet up. It was like, I want to be there. I want to be there. Also, I just want to mention there's actually a Lifetime movie about this case, and it stars Emily Osment. And Emily Osment plays Magen Fieramusca, and the whole time she's just losing her mind. Like, they're trying to show that like something is clearly wrong with Megan, and there's just so many scenes in the movie where Emily's just like absolutely like losing her mind. It's not a good movie. It's a Lifetime movie, but it was just interesting that is how she perceived Megan's character, and I think it was pretty spot on. So Megan is obsessed with Heidi. She's obsessed with Heidi, and she's like, let me go to every appointment. Let me know how the baby's doing. Let me da-da-da-da. Like she was just very, very invested in this. And then of course, she wanted to be in the delivery room for this child as well. We did it before in 2014 with Silas. Like, everything was totally fine. Megan's a friend. She's a friend of the family, bestie. Everything's cool. But also, I just want to remind you that Megan was also pregnant at the time. So Heidi's not going to Megan's doctor's appointments, but Megan's going to all of Heidi's. Also, she's having her own baby, but they're not talking about it that much. Summer's almost over and the sun is no longer beating down on you, but you might still be stinky. But don't worry, Lumi's got you covered from your head to your toes, from your foot to your face. Lumi works with 72 hours of coverage for your entire body. It's a deodorant. Now, it is still August. It's still hot for a little bit. And look, no matter how hot it gets, Lumi is going to take care of you. I know y'all be sweating from your feet. Lumi is baking soda free, paraben free, and it was created by an OBGYN. So we're not here to just cover up a scent with another scent, right? Like, we're here for a product that actually works and protects you for hours and hours on end. Now, of course, there's not only a discount, but also Lumi has a starter pack where you can actually get a little bit of an additional discount too. The starter pack has a cream tube deodorant, a regular good old solid stick deodorant, and then you get to choose 2 products of your choice. And here's the best part. The starter pack is already 15% off. With my code, you're also going to get an additional 15% off. So why not at least give it a try, right? We all need a little deodorant. So go to lumideodorant.com and use my code SINISTER for 15% off at checkout. That's Lumi Deodorant, LUMEDEODORANT, and then use the code SINISTER at checkout. Now, fast forward to December 2019. This is a huge month for Heidi and Megan because they're both supposed to give birth. That's right. Megan got pregnant the same time as Heidi, and they're going to have their babies the same months. But actually, this is just so wild. They actually have the same delivery day. It's like, it's crazy. It's so perfect. Like, they're really true best friends that are going to do everything together. Now, of course, due dates are just an estimation, and Heidi ends up going into labor first. And Megan was like, I got to be there. So she drove all the way up from Austin to Houston to be in the delivery room again. Now, Austin to Houston is about a 2.5 hour drive. But reminder, Megan is 37 weeks pregnant. She should not be driving herself, traveling that far. Her due date is supposed to be this week. It just like doesn't make any sense. Maybe she's like, oh, I'll be in a hospital anyways. Who cares? Well, she made the drive. And she's in the delivery room and people notice like some kind of like weird stuff. Like she was very, very pregnant at this point. But while she was in the hospital, she was holding a pillow in front of her belly the entire time. And people just thought it was so odd. Like when she was sitting, when she was standing, just always had this pillow. Well, the moment that we're all here for happens and Heidi gives birth to a beautiful baby girl named Margot. As soon as Margot is born, Heidi holds her, Shane holds her. Heidi's grandpa holds her. But while Heidi's grandpa is holding Margot, Magen starts demanding the baby. Like she's like, let me hold her. Let me hold her. Let me hold her. And Shane is like, what the like, I know you guys are besties, but like, that's weird. This is not your baby. This is their grandchild. Like, this is a moment for them. Don't ruin it for them. And also don't be weird. And Megan's like, let me hold the baby. Let me hold the baby. It was just very strange. And when she finally got a hold of Margot, the energy was just very possessive. When this went to trial, people reported that the energy in the room that Magen was giving off was just not normal. And people couldn't really put a finger on it, but something was just off. One of Heidi's friends, a lady named Vicky Shreves, actually said that when Heidi had her baby, Magen was quiet. She was somber. They didn't understand why she would be somber or possessive, or it just didn't make sense. But regardless, it was a long day. So afterwards, Shane, Heidi's husband, gives Magen the key to their house so that she can go kick her feet up and relax and get ready for her own drive back. She actually ended up staying a few days, but when she left, she forgot to give Shane the key back and he just never got it. But he probably didn't think to follow up on it too much because it was around December 8th or 9th that Heidi ended up telling Shane that Magen also had her baby. And, you know, she had her hands full. Maybe she can't give you the key back. But she's got a healthy, happy baby at home. And Shane was like, okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Now, over to Magen Fieramusca's home. But before we hop into what's going on with her right now, let me just give you a little more context to her relationship with Chris. So they had been dating from 2016 to 2019, and they were breaking up all the time. Now, look, Heidi and Shane, they occasionally would like break up too. They were the on and off again couple sometimes too, but there was like a happiness to it. There was a good energy to it. Chris very clearly was tired of Magen shit and ain't want nothing to do with her, you know, but she kept fighting for the relationship. Chris is always trying to get out of this, and finally, March 2019, he gets the courage. He gets the strength. He is ready. And he said, Magen, get the hell up out of my house. I'm done with you. And then Magen said, well, I'm pregnant. So that's why they were living together the entire time, and they weren't really dating. He had tried to kick her out, and she fires back by saying she's pregnant, and he's not going to leave the mother of his child out on the street. And so he decides to let her stay in the house, keep paying for things, and take care of her through the pregnancy. Now, like I said, they weren't together. They were not sexually active, and they were living in separate wings of the house. So he never saw her. He never like saw her stomach. And quite honestly, I don't think Christopher cared much. I think that he just didn't want to be a bad father, and he believed Magen. He was about to be a dad. So he was just doing the bare minimum. But they were not connecting. They were not hanging out. This was not a happy relationship. They barely even talk most of the time. But, you know, on December 12th, Magen does something odd. She tells Chris that she's leaving for a couple of days and she's going to the beach in December with her family. That's right. Beach in December with her family, the week that she is scheduled to give birth. So Chris doesn't care about Magen, raises an eyebrow, and he's like, okay, see you later. Now, on that same day, December 12th, Shane, Heidi's boyfriend, ends up coming home to like something kind of weird. The door is unlocked, a little bit ajar. Heidi's not inside. The newborn is not inside. He doesn't see her cell phone. He doesn't see any of her stuff. And so Shane is like, okay, that's weird. Like, why is the door open? Just to give you a little glimpse into Heidi's life at this point, she is a mom. She's super mom. Silas is at school right now. He's a couple years old. And she drops him off in the morning and she picks him up in the evenings. And she always has Margot with her. Margot is a newborn baby and she's always got her right up on her arm. So when Shane sees that Margot is gone too, that's almost a little bit of a relief because this keeps up with the patterns that Heidi has. Like, go do something, take a walk in the neighborhood, go see a friend, go pick up Silas. I mean, she's going to have Margot with her. So he just doesn't think too much of it and assumes that she's just going to pop up at any time. Like, remember, this is not the all-American Christian, like Sherry Papini style mom goes missing or anything. This is like two chill people that have other friends and they're not like, they're not raising the alarm bells when one of them is not there. They have social lives. They have fun lives. So he just chills for a minute. After a couple hours, they still don't turn up and he starts to like look around and he sees, okay, her keys are gone. Her cell phone is gone, but she doesn't have anything to like take care of Margot, nothing to feed her, not her baby back. The baby back was still there. And so after a few hours had passed, now Shane is starting to get a little freaked out because it's close to when Silas needs to get picked up. He hasn't heard from her at all, and the baby bag is here. More time passes. She never picks up Silas. So Shane handles that and starts calling friends, family, calling anybody. Nobody's heard from her. The panic is starting to rise, and this is when he calls the police, gets them involved to file a missing persons. As soon as this goes out, the police urge everybody, Shane, friends and family, like the first couple of hours, the first couple of days are critical. We need to get Heidi's name and information out there as much as possible because they need information. They need tips and they want to get her face out there so that people that may have seen her and didn't even know that she was missing can maybe call in, give them some kind of lead or something. So the police are really encouraging everyone close to Heidi Broussard to talk about her so that they can just get the word out, get information, and do something because they don't know where to start. Shane starts to go on these like TV interviews. And I want to remind you, Shane is just a guy. He's just a dude, okay? Like that is truly what he is. And when he starts to do these interviews on TV, people think that he's suspicious. They think he's really sketchy. This was also right after everything had happened with Chris Watts, another really, really famous case that had some press behind it. And they compared Shane's mannerisms to Chris Watts, like kind of looking down, kind of swaying, kind of almost like childlike in the way that they present things. And people thought his behavior was suspicious, and they started calling it out on Facebook. One lady commented on the video and said, "The fiance never looked up and was shifting around and then fake cried. He did it." Let me show you the video.
33-year-old Heidi Broussard and her newborn baby girl, Margot Carey, have been missing since Thursday.
She would never disappear. She is an amazing mom. She'll never, we have a 6-year-old son named Silas, beautiful kid. She would never leave him.
Now, look, we know that Shane is just a dude. He's just a guy. But when you put this kind of side by side with like a Chris Watts interview, which had happened pretty close to this, it does look a little suspicious.
There is nothing valuable missing. Her purse and her wallet and everything was up here. Her cell phone is missing. It's been turned off.
So the Facebook true crime sleuths found that and they went absolutely nuts. Now, listen, there's two sides to this coin. On one hand, the way the media introduced this case was very hard and fast, and they were like, now here's the husband, which in a situation like this, if the wife is missing, you're going to look in the home first, right? So to an extent, I understand why the public was quick to be suspicious of him, but it wasn't him. He's just a guy. Now, on Shane's side, can you imagine? None of you will be able to imagine, but just try for a moment. Imagine you come home and your lovely wife is missing. Your newborn child that she just had is missing. Nobody knows where she is. You haven't seen her for hours. So eventually you call the police for help and they say, okay, we're on it. You're panicking. You're upset. You're worried about your daughter. The police are telling you they're on top of it. But what they need you to do is get out there and start talking to the press. Drum up some interest. Get Heidi's name out there. And you say, okay, I'm going to do that. And then you do that. And then everybody says, hey, I think the worst thing that ever happened to you, I think you did it. So, oh my God, poor Shane. This is probably so disorienting. It's upsetting. It's confusing. He doesn't want to keep putting himself out there in the press because now people are suspicious of him hurting his wife when all he was trying to do is help. But then also the police are saying, like, you need to get her name out there because that's what helps us. Sometimes people know information, or maybe they've seen Heidi just out and about in public, but they don't know that she's missing. So if we don't get her name and face out there, they won't send us the tips. So we have to do this. Now, back at Megan's house, she knows that Heidi is missing because, of course, Shane called everybody. Of course, he's going to call Megan. Have you seen her? Have you heard from her? Anything? Megan was like, no, I haven't. I'm sorry about this, Shane. But what Megan didn't expect was all of the press. It was all over the TV. I mean, Shane was out here on Good Morning America. He was on news networks everywhere saying, please, Lord, bring my wife home. And Megan starts to get a little panicked. She starts to act a little frantically, but not for the same reasons that everyone else who is close to Heidi starts to get frantic. She's doing it for different reasons. One thing Megan did that just kind of stuck out like a sore thumb was she was trying to blend in. Remember I said that she would always try to fit in when she was younger and it just came off as awkward and weird? Well, that's exactly what happened here too, because Megan starts calling mutual friends like, oh my God, I'm so concerned about what all is going on with Heidi. But the things she's saying, it's almost like somebody that's like playing being concerned. Something is just always off about her. So friends and family that are talking, they actually tell the police, like, you guys should take a look at Megan. She's been acting weird. She's always been acting weird. Well, the big breakthrough comes on December 18th when one neighbor of Heidi says that she saw something that morning. Heidi lived in an apartment complex, so there were quite a few other units around. And a young lady that lived nearby claims that on the morning that Heidi disappeared, she saw a light-colored 4-door car stop perpendicular to the parking spaces. She said she then saw a woman emerge from the 2 buildings carrying an infant that had a little knit cap on. And then she watched this woman that came out of the building walk over to the car that pulled up, and then they were greeted by another woman that was inside of the car. The affidavit says, the front seat passenger opened the rear passenger side door of the vehicle. The adult female carrying the small infant entered the rear passenger seat. Both doors closed, and then the vehicle drove away. The witness also said that the woman with the baby didn't have time to secure the baby in a child seat before the car drove away. She was just holding her. This is massive information. This is the very last sighting of Heidi. So then they give the witness a lineup of photos. And they're like, are any of these photos the woman that you saw that day picking her up? And this lady points right to a photo of Magen Fieramusca and she says, it's her. It's that lady right there. Now, Megan did not tell anybody that she saw her that day. This is new information. Eyes have been on Megan for a minute, but we didn't have a firm motive outside of questionable jealousy, right? So they get a warrant for her internet search history, and it's very strange. For weeks before Heidi even disappeared, Megan had been Googling Heidi Broussard, Heidi Broussard, Heidi Broussard over and over and over again. She Googled it 162 times that she Googled her name in the weeks before her disappearance and after. She also Googled Amber Alert issued Austin and then also bodies found in Austin, Texas on her computer. Look, guys, this is just where I'm at. The internet search history tells way too much in cases. There is no reason why she should be Googling her name 162 times. That's obsessive. It's obsessive. And look, don't even get me started on the bodies. What you searching for bodies local in your area for? That don't make no sense. With Magen, there was such a shaky motive, but now these pieces that are coming into play that are like, oh my God, like this is looking pretty serious. So now they've got to go get her, but they've got to do it right. So they're looking for the right moment. The police pull up and they wait for Christopher Green to leave the house so that they can go in. But when he leaves, they follow him and they approach him with a flyer. It's a missing flyer for Heidi and for Margot. And they said, hey, do you recognize these people? And Christopher pointed at the flyer and he said, that's the baby at my house. I don't know why, but that quote is just so funny. The level of distancing that he had, like not like, that looks like my daughter. Like he said, that's the baby at my house. He also told investigators that he and his on and off again girlfriend had just had a baby, but she had been pretty distant. And just through this conversation, he was able to piece together exactly what was going on. That this was a possible abduction, that this woman and her child, and he knew who Heidi was missing, and that baby was at his house with Magen. And he starts telling officers, he said, look, if this is true, if that is Margot, and Margot is at my house, and Heidi is missing, then I don't know what Magen is capable of, and you guys need to go get that baby. So now back at Megan's house, they were actually already making their presence known. They had moved in on her with several units and they had approached the door. Now, while they were waiting for the warrant for the house, the officers start walking around the perimeter of the property and they get to Megan's car. And there's this smell coming out of Megan's car. And police know exactly what this smell is. Anybody that's ever smelled a decomposing body knows exactly what it is. A human body decomposing has a very, very, very unique smell. A lot of investigators say that once you smell a dead body, you can recognize that smell anywhere. And that's exactly what they smelled. A cadaver. And it was coming out of Megan's car. I need you to picture Megan being detained, sat on the sidewalk with multiple people walking around this house and a few of them just standing right outside of this vehicle that has a smell coming out of it that smells like a dead body when this woman is missing, and we're all just waiting for the warrant so they can open those doors up. When the warrant came in, they opened up the trunk of Megan's vehicle, and inside of it was a duffel bag with the body of her best friend, Heidi Broussard. Can you just take a moment to take that in? That is insane. We'll get to more details of the murder in the trial, but this woman killed her best friend and put her body in a duffel bag and left it in her car for days. What the fuck? We met at church camp. You have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. Now, Megan's interrogation was just an absolute mess. Her stories didn't line up at all. She claimed that she was at the beach with her cousins in December when Heidi went missing, despite the eyewitness account that saw her pull up in the vehicle. She couldn't get her story straight about what she did at the beach or who she was with. And then when it came to giving birth in that 24 hours while she was on the beach, she couldn't remember what hospital it was at. She couldn't remember the name of the doctor that delivered her baby, none of the nurses, nobody on the team. Couldn't remember anything. I mean, this crime was planned, but I think that Megan thought everything after the crime was just going to be smooth sailing. She was not a highly manipulative person. She didn't have a story all put together. She didn't create anything to tell Chris. This is all she had for the police and for Chris. I don't know. So she gets booked on December 20th by the Austin Police Department. And Heidi's mother has to come and confirm the body is hers. And she does. That's her daughter. Now, of course, when all of this went down, they also took Megan's newborn daughter. But it was very quickly revealed that this was not Megan's daughter. This is Margot. This is Heidi's daughter. So Heidi's body has been found in the back of Megan's fucking car. Sorry. And she stole her baby and tried to pass it off as her own. Now, of course, this is shocking. This is shocking to you and me. But people that knew Megan and Heidi, oh my God, this was unfathomable. What is happening? They were also shocked that Megan clearly faked her pregnancy. There was no record, no hospital records, no visits or anything of Magen actually ever having any real pregnancy through the entirety of those 9 months. So we got to get this to trial, but it takes a while because this is right around the time of COVID and the courts just didn't really know how to best operate with the number of cases they had. A lot of things were pushed back or delayed, and it took quite a while for us to move forward on this. But when we actually get into the courtroom, Magen Fieramusca's attorney, his whole case was just banking on the warrants, right? He was like, well, they weren't supposed to get that warrant here, and this warrant shouldn't have been approved here, and they unauthorized entry into the home. There's a body in there and a child that is missing. I don't think anything's unauthorized at this point. That was all he had, you know. Magen did not have a story together, and what she did was crazy. Now, when the prosecution comes in, they are able to paint a picture of a woman who was jealous, weirdly obsessed with Heidi, and also wanted a child of her own, to the point that she was willing to strangle her best friend with a dog leash and then in turn, her bare hands, put her in a duffel bag and then take her child. Now, part of me knows that, you know, she had planned her alibi that she gave to Chris. She picked up Heidi that day, you know, called her, set up the essentially abduction before the murder, all of that. So this was very, very planned. But the dog leash is such a strange weapon of choice. Sometimes it's like, is it an impulsive crime where there was an object nearby and this person just did it? But I think that she planned this the entire time. I think she knew when she walked out that door from she and Chris's house that she was going to come back with a baby by any means necessary. So between those 2 points, the attorney that's arguing the warrants are supposedly useless versus the prosecution that paints a picture from A to Z over the 20 years that they knew each other. Now, here's the thing with it. They did need a warrant to search the entirety of the home and to actually find her body. However, when it came to the child potentially being endangered, they had every right to enter the home without a warrant at first. So the judge said, based on the totality of the circumstances and information, I find that the police had reasonable and probable cause to believe that a crime had been committed, specifically the crime of kidnapping. The situation required immediate action because they believed a mom and her newborn baby had been kidnapped and were in danger. So in that moment, when they found Chris at the other location and they moved in on Magen, she was just outside of her home, basically sitting while they asked her questions, and they went in looking for the child while they waited for their warrant to fully clear. So that guy thought that he had a sticking point, but it was just not strong at all. So in February of 2023, Magen actually pled guilty and was sentenced to 55 years in prison for the murder of her best friend and the abduction of her daughter. Now, I mentioned I would put what the police thought, what I thought, whatever, at the end of the episode. The police came to the conclusion that Magen Fieramusca really wanted to keep her boyfriend, Christopher Green, and she felt like a baby was the best way to do that. But they were no longer having any type of sexual relationship, so she felt like she just had to find a baby. That's the conclusion that they came to that made the most sense to them. But people that were friends of Magen and Heidi, when they started talking, I mean, everybody's conversation was about how she was obsessed with her, how she was like jealous of her and just wanted to be as close to her as possible. I think that this is true. I do. I think that there's certain type of people and certain personality types where their thinking is just so fucked up, like I can't even rationalize it. Personally, I think that Magen is somebody that has just some like really, really strange, disorganized thoughts that come up to strange conclusions. Like, if you and I were trying to work through, I really like my boyfriend, I don't want him to leave. Well, we would sit back and be like, okay, well, let's think about this. Like, should he leave? Should I leave? Is this healthy? Is this good? Well, okay, I like him. Well, let me make effort. I will do that. Megan's brain went, gotta have a baby, gotta force him to stay, and gotta do it by any means necessary. Like, there's just this level of thinking I just can't even begin to understand. I can't even begin to climb into. And if I do, I fear I'll never get out. So I don't want to go too deep into that. But Yeah, that was her thought process, and it's just very, very strange. I also personally do think jealousy was a huge factor because she couldn't be her. Like, she really, really liked Heidi and wanted to essentially be her. But there's some really creepy logic she had of, well, I can't be you, but I can take your place and raise your child that looks like you. That's the closest I'll ever be to being you, is to remove you from the picture and take what is most precious to you and claim it as my own. I think that's what she was doing. I think that it made sense in her head for some reason. Well, my question is, we see obsession all the time on this channel. We see it all the time in our daily lives. But how obsessed do you have to be with somebody to kill them? After Megan's arrest, the unwarranted suspicion around Shane's involvement with Heidi's disappearance began to die down. Heidi Broussard was laid to rest in her hometown of Lake Charles, Louisiana, on December 28, 2019.